China is facing a growing youth unemployment crisis. The country recently stopped publishing official data on youth unemployment rates after the figure hit a record high of 19.9% in July for the 16 to 24 age group, representing around 10 million unemployed youths. But of course, if you are a fan of our channel, you know the figure could be as high as 46.5%. The decision to stop publishing the data has drawn criticism domestically and internationally amid concerns. It signals the growing sensitivity of unemployment statistics in China. I have a master's degree and have graduated from Xi'an University. I have been unemployed for more than half a year. I submitted hundreds of resumes, but nothing yielded results. After the age of 35, finding a decent income job started getting harder. I used to deliver food, but the company often does not have orders because a lot of people are also jobless in this nation. So desperate, I applied as a Taoist monk, but was rejected because I was too old. I don't know what to do. Of course, in order to be a Taoist monk, you have to let go of material lifestyle and focus only on spiritual practice. With the mentality of mere survival, how come this man can achieve enlightenment? He is so desperate he is willing to cheapen a religion for livelihood. As the surge of unemployment increases in China, 6 million unemployed young people are trying to save themselves by taking public exams, postgraduate exams, any exam to actively choose to postpone their graduation. Many will willingly fail exams to prolong their studying time so they can retain the facade of just graduating. Also, their students can still use cheap food and drinks from the school and the support of the parents without getting scolded or getting kicked out of their room. It's an Asian thing. Their actions are, even though not right, but understandable. With over 425 million Chinese aged 16 to 30, youth unemployment has far-reaching implications for China's economy and political stability. The problem has been exacerbated by China's stringent zero-COVID policies enacted over the past few years, which have disrupted the economy and labor markets. Rising costs, stagnating wages. While the cost of living has been increasing in major cities like Beijing and Shanghai, salary growth has stalled across most industries, even in previously robust sectors like finance and technology. This is squeezing the middle class and making it harder for young people to gain financial independence. Recent graduates from 2022 and 2023 are finding it particularly difficult to land jobs as companies curb hiring amid a slowing economy. According to recruitment platform Xiaopin, the average starting salary offers in Q2 2022 declined by 9% in Shanghai and 6% in Beijing compared to last year, marking the steepest drop since 2015. Other cities like Shenzhen, Guangzhou, and Hangzhou have witnessed similar wage stagnation. White-collar workers in their 30s are also increasingly concerned about job security and living costs. For lucrative positions in fields like investment banking, pay cuts up to 40% are becoming common. To save costs, companies are cutting back on benefits like travel allowances and meal subsidies. Employees across sectors are working longer hours for the same or lower pay. Ride-hailing and food delivery services are suffering from oversupply issues, with drivers complaining about insufficient order volumes to earn decent pay. New property developments aren't selling, and the secondary housing market remains cool. The once booming private tutoring and after-school education sector has declined following tightened regulations. Technology companies and startups, earlier absorbents of China's young talent, are now cautious about hiring and expansion amid tighter government scrutiny and pressures to align with state objectives like common prosperity and data security. The plight of college graduates. In 2022, a record-high 10.76 million students graduated from Chinese universities, almost double the number from a decade ago. However, the supply of graduates appears to have outpaced demand. Reports indicate graduates today are submitting more job applications than their predecessors. In major cities, an average graduate submits roughly 52 resumes and attends 15 interviews before landing a job. With intensifying competition, more effort is required to secure employment. Disheartened by the grim job market, some graduates opt to pursue further studies instead. For instance, a record high 3.07 million people took the entrance exam for postgraduate studies in 2022, up 11% from 2021. However, higher degrees do not necessarily improve employability, especially as China's economy slows. Critics argue the trend of staying longer in school reflects young people delaying entry into the workforce rather than enhancing their skills. Labor market mismatch. The imbalance between the high number of graduates produced by China's education system and the jobs available is exacerbating youth unemployment. This labor market mismatch stems from several factors. Firstly, the structure of China's economy has been shifting away from manufacturing toward services and high technology, but the higher education system continues to churn out graduates with degrees misaligned with the skills needed in emerging sectors. There is an oversupply of graduates in fields like management and education, but a shortage in vocational skills. Secondly, employers perceive graduates today as lacking the practical abilities required in the workplace, despite often having high academic scores and degrees from top universities. Companies need to spend more on training new hires. Lastly, graduates themselves have high expectations for salaries, benefits, and work-life balance. Many are unwilling to settle for jobs, salaries, or working conditions they consider beneath their educational credentials, leading to mismatched expectations between employers and job seekers. Impact on consumption and investments. Youth unemployment is likely to have a profound impact on China's domestic consumption and investment patterns. Young people who are unemployed or earn lower incomes have reduced spending power. This affects consumption in sectors ranging from electronics and fashion to dining, entertainment, and vacations. Unemployed youths also delay major investments like housing and cars. Surveys show over 75% of unemployed youths intend to put off property purchases. With spending on discretionary items and big-ticket assets suppressed, China's consumption-driven growth model faces challenges. At the same time, anxious parents of unemployed youths cut back on their own spending to support children financially. With household consumption accounting for over 60% of China's GDP growth, youth unemployment triggers a negative ripple effect across the economy. Eroding social mobility. Rising socioeconomic inequality is another concern tied to high youth unemployment. Income disparity in China is at the highest level in decades, with the top 10% of households owning 70% of the country's total wealth. Full-time work is critical for youth to generate financial security and social mobility. However, unemployed or underemployed youths from lower-income households will struggle to get ahead and build wealth. As the perception solidifies that a good education no longer guarantees a good job, disillusionment grows about achieving upward social mobility through traditional channels like higher education. This erosion of education's role as a social leveler undermines the social contract between citizens and the state. Declining desire for marriage, childbearing, financial constraints, and pessimism about the future are causing many unemployed or underemployed youths to delay or forgo marriage and raising children. China's marriage rate plunged to 6.1 per 1,000 people in 2021, the lowest level in decades. High costs of housing, education, healthcare, and children make marriage and children seem unattainable for youth navigating economic uncertainties. With young Chinese women also gaining career aspirations, the desire to marry early has diminished. Surveys show only around 50% of Chinese youths consider marriage a necessity today. Birth rates in China have fallen for 5 consecutive years, hitting a record low in 2021. Slow wage growth coupled with rising living costs has hurt young people's ability to afford their own families. China's population is on the brink of shrinking, a historic milestone that will further weigh on its economy. Exacerbating the aging crisis, high youth unemployment, delayed marriages, and reluctance to have children are feeding into China's demographic crisis of a rapidly aging population. China's working-age population has been declining since 2012 due to its earlier one-child policy. The over-60 population already exceeded 260 million in 2020, It is projected to swell to 483 million by 2050, amounting to over one-third of China's total population. With the traditional family structure shrinking, the burden of supporting aging parents will fall more heavily on each working child in the future. This is a severe economic stress for unemployed or underemployed youths, further discouraging marriage and childbearing. If youth unemployment remains high, the working-age labor force available to support retirees will shrink faster. China's aging crisis will intensify, undermining long-term growth. Increasing mental health issues, prolonged joblessness, income insecurity, and hopelessness about the future are taking a toll on the mental well-being of Chinese youths. Studies reveal unemployed youths suffer higher rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts compared to their employed peers. Financial constraints mean many cannot afford treatment. Online therapy platforms like Xi'an counseling have seen user numbers surge as more youth seek psychological help while jobless. But inadequate access to professional counseling and mental health care has sparked concerns of self-harm or suicide among marginalized youths. Rising disillusionment with the system. The crisis has bred a sense of disillusionment and frustration toward China's education system, employers, and government policies. Despite working hard to get into top universities, many graduates feel let down by credential inflation and the realization that academic excellence alone is insufficient to land a good job in the current economy. There is growing resentment at the system's failure to provide graduates careers and financial security commensurate with their educational investments, causing anger directed at government propaganda touting false promises. Consequently, the phenomenon of lying flat has emerged, with some educated youths losing motivation to compete in an exhausting job market. The aimlessness and social withdrawal associated with lying flat is alarming to China's authorities. Others pursue unconventional income sources, like social media influencing, live streaming, and writing online fiction. But these side hustle options tend to be unstable and temporary. Alarming levels of youth indebtedness. Student debt levels in China have ballooned over the past decade, more than doubling from 560 billion CNY in 2011 to 1.89 trillion CNY in 2020. The student debt to GDP ratio reached an alarming 11% in 2020. Graduates unable to find jobs or taking low-paying ones struggle to repay their loans on top of daily expenses. Research shows 85% of unemployed youths have student debt. The average amount owed is 52,000 CNY. While the government has encouraged banks to extend loan repayment deadlines, interest continues accumulating. Rising youth indebtedness also constrains domestic spending and investments. Outlook on youth job prospects. Economists hold mixed views about the outlook for youth employment in China. The near-term scenario remains gloomy given the economic slump, but some see reasons for cautious optimism further out. As China gradually eases its stringent zero-COVID policies, domestic consumption and business activity are expected to recover somewhat. Major infrastructure projects greenlit by Beijing could create more jobs. The expansion of sectors like eldercare to address China's aging problem could also absorb some labor. But daunting structural forces like declining birth rates, maturing tech firms in hiring mode, and the economy's transition away from manufacturing will continue challenging youth job prospects over the long term. Much depends on whether market reforms can enhance the nimbleness, productivity, and risk appetite of China's state-dominated economy. Streamlining the mismatch between skills training and employers' needs is also critical. Most experts concur it will be an uphill battle for the government to prevent youth unemployment from derailing China's growth engine and social stability. Given its systemic nature, tackling the crisis requires more than short-term stimulus measures. So far, China's worsening youth unemployment crisis has wide-ranging economic and social repercussions. It threatens domestic consumption and investment, exacerbates inequality, accelerates demographic decline, stokes mental health risks, and breeds discontent among educated youths toward the government. With the traditional social contract in jeopardy, The youth unemployment crisis represents a critical policy challenge for China. Supporting the next generation's livelihoods and dreams will determine whether China can achieve sustainable long-term development as its population ages and economy matures.